listen to these kind of how these things go together, these different phrases, because there's more to them than you think. We just kind of blow through them, but there's some real interesting things in this. Jesus says to the 12, this part we understand. He says, whoever welcomes you, the disciples, okay, and we remember about the disciples going into the villages, and what does he tell them? You go in, and what do they pronounce to the people? What do they say to the people? Peace be with you, right? And what the book says, if there is a person of peace there, they'll welcome you. But if there is not a person of peace there, if this is a hostile environment, what are they supposed to do? Right, and if you stop and think of a person in sandals walking around in a place where there was no cars, but there was lots of animals, what do you suppose that dust was made out of? So you shake off that. This is a good thing for us to remember, okay? No, it says here, if you, he sends these people out, he sends them out 2 by 2. We heard that. He tells them to cast out the demons, to confront the devils, to heal the illnesses, to do exactly the same things as God sent him to do. Okay? That's really important. Because this, and what we have here is the chain of contagion, if you will, for the gospel of Jesus Christ. How many of us have learned about epidemiology in the last 3 months? What are we finding out about how connected we are to each other? I don't know about you, but I figured I was the only one on my boat. It's just not like that. You know, I never thought about it, you know, and I realized last week I went home, I came up and I said, use your imagination, yay, think about all this. Fact of the matter, we're in the middle of something that's teaching us, moment by moment, spiritual truths. How many of us, I don't know about you, but that was the first time I have heard live human voices singing in months. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Did you notice any, what did we notice? And this is an open conversation because we're all in this thing together. What struck you about that one? Wow, what is it? Anything?
Quieter.
Huh?
Quieter.
Feels like quieter. Quieter?
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah. That's one thing. What else? What else?
Rejoicing.
Yeah. I know I feel better, and it's like I heard it in my soul. Remember we were talking about last week? I forgot that music does not work on the ears and the mind. The music is based on, believe it or not, mathematics. How the whole universe goes together. The things are in a sequence. They're in a cycle. Different vibrations, different frequencies work different. And out of this comes this song. That's what the scriptures say. You know, Marty has on that we are the song that God sings. And that the universe is the song that God sings. And as that energy, as those frequencies, I don't care whether you call them, you know, waves or radiation or whatever it is, but it goes on and on and on, and it's based on the same notes. You used to laugh when I played music with these hillbilly guys, you know, old school. You know, the rules are 3 chords and 1 trick, no minors. Okay. We didn't have electronic tuners all that time. So by the end of the night, we'd be playing in D1/2. Okay? And one of the things I figured out was that after a while, it sounds okay to you. You know, that we adjust as we go. And here we're in this music that's going on forever. I have a guy that gives me Scientific Americans after he gets them in the mail. Then he expects me to read them by the next time he talks to me. And he's just grumpy enough that I do it. So I'm getting this big idea of what it means for a note to be sounded at the beginning of the world. However that is. In the beginning, God, what? Spoke or sang. And it went boom, 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 and it's still going. And what I find out listening to these scientists is that they are watching this, they are listening, they are hearing this note go farther than they ever thought was anything. In other words, this music carries us beyond everything. Yeah, I realize that. And we're invited. We're invited to be part of that song. Yeah, for me, I guess, it's one thing to listen to a recording. It's one thing to be listening to somebody on the radio. It's something to be hearing or watching a video. How many people know who Neil Young is? Okay, Neil Young, you know. Yeah. There is a town in North Ontario. You know, first time I heard that voice, I went, wow, if he can do it, I can do it. He had a song out a while back that was, he's kind of a cranky guy too. He said, you listen to an MP3, you get 5% of the information that's recorded in what they call a WAV file. Okay? 5%. So you listen to an MP3, you get 5% of what it would sound like if you had it on a CD. If you've got a CD, it can only capture so much of what's happening. There is something about music that is live, that fills up space, that bounces off things, that changes as it goes, till everybody's going, wow, we're in the middle of this. You know, there's people who get paid thousands and thousands of dollars to try and make musicians' music sound like it does live. Mm-hmm. You know, I totally forgot. And these last 4 months have taught me that we gather to get as much information from the God who loves us as we can possibly pack in. Our singing is part of it. Our reading is part of it. Our rehearsing the formulas and the shapes and the liturgies of 2,000 years is part of it. We are yearning to be a larger part of what God's doing, whether we know it or not. Last week I talked about this Sandra Ingerman, this shaman who is teaching us in this workshop how to go into the other world and talk to the souls there, you know, and all this stuff. She'd do these exercises in class and would say, and I'd go to sleep. So I finally kind of copped to this, okay? She's doing these relaxation things, and I'm waking up as she's finishing. And I said, Sandy, I'm not getting this. You start talking, I go to sleep. And she said, well, you need to learn that being conscious is highly overrated. We think that we have to be conscious, and the more we pay attention to it, and the better we are at it, the better the interaction will go, that our job is to pay more attention. I don't know if you notice it, but I'm not nearly as tight as I was up here just as that virus hit. I couldn't relax. And she said, you know, somehow you got the idea it's you doing this. Somehow you got the idea that it's your song. No. know. She says it's ours, and you don't have to be conscious to transform the world. You don't have to be conscious. Your job, as it says here, is what? Our job is a very, very simple one. He says, go out into the surrounding villages, doesn't he? 2 by 2. He says, go out there. Walk into the town. If anybody goes, you say, good. If everybody goes, boo, get out of here. You're on the other side. No reason even to fool with it. You think that might be helpful for those of us in these hyper-politicized times? You know, once we understand, no one will be convinced anymore, ever, that what used to be conversation, what used to be the looking for truth, is now targeting an objective, and we can't help it. We need to understand that our job as the people of Christ is not now, and it never has been, to convince people of anything. Okay? Jesus says to his 12, he says, whoever welcomes you, welcomes who? Me. Do you need to know that? It helps us, but it's not going to keep it from happening. See, that's the thing about the gospel we need to understand. That will help us, but it won't make it happen. It happens anyway. When we are welcomed, whether we know this or not, we have stepped into a line of contagion between this world and that song at the beginning, which continuously calls us into it. He says, whoever welcomes you, and this is a word that we'll hear 9 times in this. Whoever welcomes you welcomes me. And whoever welcomes me welcomes who? The one who sent me. Okay? Put a capital O on that one. Because we are, that song, that note, all that information is everything that ever has been. And we have been taught by this world that we are separate from each other, that if things are not like us, they're the enemy. That kept us from getting killed as we were living in the caves. Okay? To be paranoid the whole time. The paranoid ones lived. The ones that trusted too much didn't. And that brings us to now, and Jesus says, no. You're supposed to just show up in these places. And if you are welcome, understand, I'm welcome too. And not only am I welcome too, but you become one with the whole thing. And we're practicing that this moment. Okay, as we look at each other. Part of the reasons why corporate worship works is we get all the information about each other that we wouldn't get from a picture. So, in fact, we have been deprived, people, for 3 months of something that connects us with the God who loves us. This isn't to say everybody ought to get together in some big football stadium and rah, rah, rah. It's a good way to kill everybody. Here he comes, though. He says, whoever welcomes you welcomes me. Then he says, whoever welcomes a prophet in the name of a prophet receives a prophet's reward. That almost doesn't make sense. Because if I couldn't come up with a picture of this, okay, in my mind. Okay, so we'll go back to Jeremiah's time. And somebody, and they had this other guy, this Hananiah, was that who it was? Yeah. Hananiah, who told these people everything was going to be great. He says, don't listen to this cranky person here. Don't listen to this Jeremiah who, always is telling us that the top's going to fall and that everything's done for it. He says, the thing that matters about a prophet in the Old Testament wasn't about predicting the future. It was describing what was going on then. That's important. We think it's weather forecasting for the entire human race. No, a prophet comes, describes what's going on, and it's up to the people to make of that what they will and transform themselves. And the prophet sits down, and human history unfolds. Okay? What if I come and say, you know, this COVID-19 stuff is just a conspiracy. By golly, it's not real. These people are just trying to muzzle us. All of a sudden, we're into the realm of the symbolic. And we're not paying attention to what's really going on. And we take this in. Supposing I come and say, you know, everybody can just relax. If you listen to me, what do you get? That. Okay, you get what comes next, the prophet's reward. Okay, if you listen to it, I'm not sure this is making sense even to me, people, so we're just going to pass by this. How about that? But you see what I'm saying is, this is not easy to understand. Okay, we need to sit with that stuff. Then he says something that's even more tricky, and he says, if whoever welcomes a righteous person in the name of a righteous person will receive the reward of the righteous. Anybody got an idea? Help me. What does this mean? How many of us are righteous? Nobody. Okay, start there. This is about an ideal situation. Okay, I don't know if I told you guys about this, but I did a wedding one time. And a guy came up after me and he goes, you know what? You're one righteous dude. Which pegged him culturally and temporally, historically. And I said, well, I really appreciate that. He says, no, you don't understand. I'm a linguist. And I've been studying how different words actually function and how they change. Okay? Once upon a time, a righteous person was that pilgrim that put the other people in stocks. A righteous person was the one that burnt the witch at the stake. The righteous person was the one that everybody was supposed to listen to. Okay? Fascinating thing, he says. That's not true. And this you're a righteous dude thing has more to do with what the scriptures say than you think it does. Because this word decay in Greek is something we should aspire to. What if what we are is in fact that righteous one? I said, what do you mean righteous one? He says, a righteous one, a righteous dude, you can't explain that. Okay? What does it mean to say he's a righteous dude? Could that guy be a biker? That's what he was talking about. He's from California. That in the realm of the outlaw motorcycle world, where nothing, we believe, hardly, in terms of 1, 2, 3 type list of things, applies. What's a righteous dude in the motorcycle world? He's cool. That's another one. He's cool. A righteous dude is somebody you can pay attention to, and you're gonna get it'll rub off on you. Can there be a righteous drug dealer? We say no, because we have this framework. What if righteousness is not connected to that? I was watching a series last night on Netflix called, I think it's called Marcella. And there's this guy who's got this Down syndrome brother who's always getting in trouble. And he breaks the window, and this is in Belfast. And he breaks the windows, okay, in this bakery. And the lady comes after the brother who says, "You're going to pay me for this no matter what." And the brother says, "We don't have any money." They said, "Well, that's your problem, not me. You should keep this kid under control." And the guy goes back, and what he does is he takes over the heroin business on the corner. Why? Why did he do it? To take care of his family. You see, these days, we're all set to put those people there and those people there and say that they don't deserve it and we do because they're righteous. Fact of the matter is there's people all over this planet doing things we would not think righteous, but seen from God's perspective, they very well could be. How many people have fought in a war? What happens in a war? Huh? You kill people. Forget about that other stuff. The job is kill people. Is killing righteous? If you save your entire country, is it righteous? See, a story of righteousness pulls us into this. It's as if we get captured by, wonder what righteous is. What he says is, if you even say, my goal is to be one with all the righteousness in the universe, if my goal is to do that, can I go wrong in the eyes of the God who loves me? If my goal is righteousness, will I fail?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. And then later on, he says this, the prophets who preceded you and me from ancient times prophesied war and famine and pestilence. Against who? Many countries and great kingdoms. Well, the fascinating thing is that who the prophets came to? Who'd they come to? Israel. Prophets didn't care about those people. They cared about Israel. And they said, I am describing this. You are not doing this the way you're supposed to. You need to change. And if the people changed, what happened? Everything was good. If they didn't change, what happened? They disappeared. And again, put this in the context of our current experience that the entire world is having. We are called to, number one, to listen to the fact that we are one. We are called to understand that our goal is righteous behavior. Righteous for the Hebrew is the same exact kind of word as shalom. Do we know what shalom means? Peace. It means peace, but it's way more than that. Okay? It means, it takes paragraphs, and righteousness is the next door neighbor. That is the personal version of shalom. That we are in this together, and that my righteousness or your righteousness, whatever we have, will bring us all somewhere. But here's the interesting thing, and I'll be done here. As for the, oh, that's the wrong one. Oh, that's good too. Whoever gives even a cup of cold water to one of these little ones, after hearing this whole thing about welcoming, rewards, this whole thing works, then he shifts and says, whoever gives even a cup of cold water to one of these little ones in the name of a disciple, which is 5 different things in one thing. Truly I tell you, none of these will lose their reward. A cup of cold water to a little one. You know, I got one New Testament word study that I did that has endured. And you know what it was? It's on Ton Mikron, which is little one. Because I had to go back to Matthew and I had to see what Matthew meant by little ones. And here's the situation that Matthew had in hand. Okay? He was in Rome the same time as the author of the Revelation had gotten sent to Patmos. There was an incredible, absolutely lethal persecution under Diocletian. And what the Romans would do is they go to Matthew's Jewish Christian communities and they would gather everybody up, men, women, and children. And they would set an image of the emperor, and they would light a candle, and they would have a bowl of incense there. And anybody who would take that piece of incense, drop it into the flames in front of that image, what? Got to live. Guess what happened to everybody else? They executed him. Right then. Okay, the blood ran in the streets. On the Appian Way, there was crucifixions as far as you could see. Okay? What do you suppose happened to those people who put that pinch in the flame and didn't get killed? They got to live their lives as somebody who had denied Jesus Christ. We forget that. Can you imagine what that would be? They got to go back to their congregation, and the people there say, "Why in the world are you still here? You are an apostate." Okay? What did we hear last week? Anybody who denies me, what? I will deny them. This is as far from the gospel as we can get. You know what's going to happen here? Have any of you folks had anybody yet who went to a birthday party somewhere, got COVID-19 and came home and spread it? We haven't had that experience yet. How many of us fear that? And do we fear it for those other people? Oh yeah. You know what I'm afraid of? The shame. How many people, as you walk into a store, see somebody without a mask and immediately judge that person? Okay? What if one of us spreads this virus to the people we love? What does the Christian community do with that person? These are days, my brothers and sisters, when the contagion of the gospel is every bit as important as the contagion or not contagion of the disease. It says here, if I come and they accept me, then they accept the one who sent me, and they accept the one behind there. There's this whole thing that says, welcome, welcome, welcome. You know what St. Matthew said about those little ones? You know what he said about those apostates, the people that had denied Jesus? It's right there in 42. What does it say? Whoever gives even a cup of cold water to one of these people, truly I tell you, none of these will lose their reward. I don't know if I've said it before, but I had a buddy of mine who used to say to me, don't worry about screwing this up. You're gonna. It's not what happens, it's what happens next that's important to the people of God. And our job is just keep walking down through that thing. Amen.